Hey, this is going to be the recons of my 9.37 and 9.49 one-handed averages that I got at Osnets. But first, I'd like to quickly announce that I'm now sponsored by Wattlecube, so you should get all your cubes from there. So for this first scramble, I got a 9.67. I saw this pair straight away, and there isn't really anything nice with the yellow-red first block, because the square's kind of mid. You have to do something like that, which isn't great for one-handed. But there's a nice yellow-green square, where you do f d prime and then f prime f prime, and that solves the square in 4 moves. And then this pair is really easy to solve. You can just do u prime wide r2, u wide rb. And then for second block, I usually solve dr first, which is what I did. I did u prime r2. It would have been better to probably do something like u prime, r, and then you have this like easy square. But I just did u prime r2. And then here, I should have done this pair first, like that, but I didn't see it in time, I guess. So instead I did it m prime, u prime, r prime, ur, wide r prime, u prime, r to solve the square. And then I did this pair. And then for this CMLL, you recognize that it's a pi case and that these two are the same and this one's adjacent. And you like take out the pair with an r, u to r prime, and then you do like u prime, r, u, r prime, and then just insert it with a sledge. And then this EOLR I solve by doing, like, I insert the misoriented edge into the other misoriented edge, like that. And then you have this case where you can pretty much solve it normally, and it solves the LR edges into bottom. And then you do u prime, u prime m to u prime to solve the LR edges, and then just m u to m for 4c. So on this next scramble, I got an 8.42. And there's this pair, which is the first thing I saw, but there isn't really a nice way to solve any of the squares that go with it. This edge is kind of in a bad spot, and then the only way to solve this square that I see is by doing d wide r u wide r prime d prime, but I didn't really like that. But instead I saw that there's this pseudo pair, and I found that usually when there's a pseudo pair, you could make a nice line. So here you can do something like rb m prime to solve this line, and then you can insert this edge. But for this scramble, if you do r and then you do a u to b, it also solves this edge, which makes this line, and then you can do m prime d prime for first block. But I didn't just stop there. Instead of doing m prime d prime, which leaves this dr edge in kind of a bad spot, I did u prime m prime d prime, which solves the edge. And then this was the first pair that I saw, so I solved it like you would in CFOP. Then same again here. And then this CMLL, you recognize it the same as the last one, except now these two are the same and this one's adjacent. And you solve it similar, but instead of doing it in the front, you take out the pair in the back, and then to insert it with a backslide, you r wide f prime u prime wide f. And then this EOLR is really good. It's where these two are like misoriented, and then there's one misoriented edge in the bottom and one's opposite to the other misoriented edge. So what you do is you can do u prime m, and this gives you misoriented centers. So then if you just solve the LR edges, it will solve EO, and then it's just u to m2, which was pretty lucky. So on this scramble, there's this like pair, but the square for it's kind of mid. You have to do like wide r d f prime, d prime f prime d, which isn't great. And I couldn't really find much until I saw that if you insert this corner into the bottom to make this pair with r prime u prime r, it also makes this 3 mover, which after doing r prime u prime r, you can cancel into putting it in the front, and then you do f prime to solve this pair, and then wide f prime rotate to solve this last pair. And then for the dr edge, I just did u wide r, u r2. It would have been better to do wide r2, but I missed that. And then I did like u prime u before rotating down to the bottom to see that it's just m2 to solve this pair. Then you insert it, and then you get lucky 3 move case. And then this CMLL is Nicholas, and it's really good because I also know that all the edges will be preserved. So I know that I'm going to have a good arrow case, which is where it's just 3 moves for EOLR. So here I can just do M, U, M prime to solve EOLR, and then U prime M2 U, which solves the LR edges, and then M2, M prime U2, M2 for 4C. Alright, so this 4 solve is an 1169. There isn't anything like too great on this scramble. There's this one pseudo pair, but it kind of sucks. There's no real easy way to solve the DR edge. So I didn't end up going with that. I saw that this edge was solved, and there's a nice solution for this pair by doing R prime D, but instead of just doing that, you can do U M2D, and that solves the square. And then this pair is 2 moves with just wide R F prime, and then the DR edge is in the back, so I did wide R prime U R2. And here I didn't solve it too great. I did U2 wide R U prime wide R prime U2 M prime to make this pair, and then wide R U wide R prime. And then here I must have messed up when I was seeing the 3 mover, because I did M M prime and then I did the 3 mover. And then this case, I think I struggle with the OLL CPU recognition or whatever, because when I see this in a CFOP solve, I usually see that these two are opposite and these two are opposite when I'm doing this OLL, and so that I know to give CP. So I was thinking it might be soon, and I'd have to execute it from here, but no, it's anti-soon. So I did U prime, U prime, U prime before I was able to do it. Oh sorry, it was diag soon, not anti-soon, before I was able to do the CMLL. And then this EOLR, it's very easy to solve. You just solve it how you would solve the EO case. And then U M2 U to solve LR. And then here I messed up. I did M prime U2 wide R prime U prime, I think it was. And so then I had to undo that. The solution wasn't terrible. I just was very nervous, so I messed up quite a bit. So on this last scramble I got 9.51. I saw this pair first and I looked, and you can do U2 LD2 as a first square, and then there's an okay first block from there. But then I saw this, and this is basically a square, because you don't have to solve the center straight away with Ru. You can always do, after you've done first 2 blocks, you can always do wide U M prime, wide U prime, and that'll solve both the centers. So I went with this, and you can solve this pair by doing R2, U prime, R, U2, and then F prime. But instead of just doing F prime, I saw that the DR edge would be kind of bad position, so I did R prime, F prime, and that made it so it's 2 moves to solve DR, which I did. And then I did wide U, M prime, wide U prime. I think I just wanted to give myself more time to see the second block pairs. And then I went for this pair, with just the same way you would solve it in CFOP. And then this pair is really good in the back, because you can predict CMLL, because the way that you solve the pair, it doesn't affect corners. So while I was doing this, I quickly recognized the CMLL, and I saw it's going to give me a decent CMLL, and I was fairly certain that I should solve it in a way where I wouldn't normally solve it, because I thought it would give an arrow case, which it ended up doing, so I'll just show. So you solve that, and then the corners don't get affected. And then you solve it like this. Normally I would do sledge here into that, which doesn't give a great case. But instead I did a wide sledge, sledge with a wide R prime, and that gives an arrow. And then here I should have done U prime M2 to make this edge good, but I did M2, and then U prime M to solve EO, and then M prime U2 M, U prime M2 U prime to solve LR. I should have done a U, and that would have been just 4 moves left to solve. Wait, 5 moves left to solve. But I did a U prime, which is fine because it's really fast to exec, and it just leaves a U2 at the end. And that gave me a 951. Alright, so moving on to the 949 average. This first solve was an 8.99. I solved this pair first, and there's not really a great way to solve the square, it's just kind of bad. And then this pair was what I saw next. It's not great to do white-green, because if you do just solve the edge, then it's unoriented, so it's not great to solve. But if you do the white-orange, it's much better, because if you do B prime D, then it's just R U prime B to solve it. And then the next pair is here, which it's not terrible, but I solved it in a very inefficient way. I did R2 U and then R, U prime, R prime, U2, M to make the pair on the bottom, and then an F move. And then here I would do U prime R2, but I think I didn't want to put this corner on the bottom, so I did R, U prime R. And then I solved this pair first, but I did it in a very inefficient way. You should probably do like M into 2 gem, or there's probably something else like that into like U2 M 3 mover. But I ended up doing R, U prime, R prime, U, R, U prime, R prime, U to make this 3 mover. And then instead of doing like U2, R prime, M prime, UR, I did R, U prime, R prime, U again, and then inserted like a 3 mover. But then this case is like pretty good. You do U2R, U prime M, U prime R prime. And then this CMLL, I did U prime to recognize it, even though I can recognize it from this angle. Pretty much these two are opposite, or sorry, these two are the same, these two are opposite, meaning it's diag soon. And when I execute it from this angle, I know that it's going to skip, or I know that it's going to solve these 2 edges. And then I also saw that there's 2 more like edges in the top, and these are just going to stay like opposite to each other. So I knew that it was going to be like a really easy LSC. I wasn't sure like how good it was going to be, but I knew it was going to be pretty easy. So I did the CML, which is RU, R prime, U, sledge, RU2, R prime, and it's just U prime. So I kind of got saved by the LSC. Alright, so on the second solve, I got a 7.64. There's just one really obvious solution here for first block, which is you have this 1 move square, and then you can solve the last pair by doing U prime, R prime, F. But if I do U prime, R prime, F, it solves this into DR and it's flipped, which isn't great. So instead I did R, U prime, R prime, and then U2, F, and that makes it 1 move to solve. But you can also insert this pair by doing U, R prime, and then this pair is the last pair that you have. So I saw all of this in the inspection, and then I was looking ahead to this pair, and you just solve like U and C fop. And then here I did U to recognize. You have these 2 are the same, and then this one's adjacent, or you can also recognize it as these 2 are the same. And then I did U prime, and this you do a back soon and then a front anti-soon, which is what I did in the solve. And then you have this pretty easy EOLR into UM2, and then I think I did UM into M prime, UM2, U2 for 4C, which isn't the most efficient, but it worked. But if I show what I missed in L10P, so here I actually know the OLCP for it. You started off the same, but then you do you do this OLL basically, like that, and it gives a 3 move LSE, which kind of annoyed that I missed it, but it's fine because I knew that it would give a decent EOLR already. That's why I went for the other solution, and I was scared that I'd like lock up or something on the wide R alg. So on this third solve I got a 9.47. There's like this similar idea of the like 937 average on the last solve, where you have like these squares without centers. I didn't go for either of them, although red looks okay. I think I might have missed it. I saw that you can do on blue, you can make this pair here and then make the square with U2B D prime. But if you do an R first, it preserves this pair. And I didn't do U2B, instead I did URUB. I think I just preferred how it finger tricked, and then D prime F prime to solve first block. And then here it's a U prime R2 to solve the DR edge. And then here I did U prime R prime. So it looks like I'm going to solve this pair, but instead I do U2 M2 to make this pair solve it. But because I didn't see the other pair, it made look ahead here really easy because I saw that it was a free pair. So I did M2, wide R U, wide R prime, U prime, M2, and then just solve it in the back. And then here I think I did like U2 to recognize. But this case pretty good, where you just do R prime, U2 R, and then wide F moves. And then this EOLR is pretty nice. It's where they're like adjacent to each other and one's misoriented, one's not. You do M prime, U prime, M to set up into good arrow, and then U2 M, U prime, M prime. and then here you can see after you do U and 2U to solve them, you just gotta skip. Alright, so this full solve I got a 10 flat. There's no pairs or anything, but I saw that with this edge you can do U prime and then R prime, M prime, F to solve this, and then to solve the square, and then it's just R, U prime, wide R2B to solve first block, and then this you take out by doing R prime U wide R to orient it, and then just U R2. And then here, for this pair, when you have it in like the back, you can do U sledge, and that solves it. And I saw that if you do R prime, U prime, it also makes this pair. So I did them at the same time. And then you have this CMLL, which is pretty good. And I know that these two edges are going to swap. But this one's going to stay misoriented, and this one's going to stay oriented. So I know that I've got a pretty good EOLRB that I can do. So see, you have the same thing. And then this, you pretty much just solve it, and not putting the other LR edge in the top. And if it's adjacent to like the colors that it's with, if you put in the opposite colors and you solve it, it'll already be solved, and then it's just U prime, M prime, U to M. So on this last solve, I got a 1055. There's no pairs or anything, but there's these two edges which are solved adjacent to one another. So I just inserted the corner with UD, R prime, D prime to make the square, and then this you can solve with wide R, U prime, wide R, B. And then here I solved the DR edge with wide R to U, and then I guess once again I didn't want this edge in the bottom, so I did R, U prime, R. And then I think I was struggling to find a pair here because I did U prime, U prime, U prime. And then I must have thought that this was here because I tried solving it the way that I would solve it if it was there. But it just didn't solve anything. And so then I went into this pair, which I did with wide R prime U, M prime U, R. And then I realized that SB wasn't solved, so I did R, U prime, R prime, U2, R, U prime, R prime. And then you have this pretty like good CMLL. It's F unsexy F prime. Or you can do it from this angle and do F sexy F prime, which might have been better because it gives a good arrow. But then this EOLRB is really easy, where you have it solved, and it's this EOLR case. So when you do the normal LR case, you can just solve it straight into the left and right edges. And then it's just M prime U2, M U2. Overall pretty happy with the solves. Some mistakes, but that's fine.